Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to morning meeting with our ambassadors. My name is Kristen and we've got Fern, our barred owl ambassador here today. She's our female barred owl ambassador. She lives with Byron, our male barred owl ambassador. And we'll just give people a couple minutes to join us here. We are in our temporary office space. Many of you may know that we're under expansion. This is a tough time to end a capital campaign, but we're gonna do it, and we're gonna have a new beautiful facility and campus for everyone to visit us and gather in our nature center and auditorium and stone amphitheater once it is safe to do so again, and once we raise the rest of the funds. So we're here with Fern. She's a female barred owl, and she came into our clinic not this past winter, but the winter before. We actually had admitted about 60 barred owls that winter that had been hit by cars, unfortunately. And we do tend to see a lot of raptors in the wintertime around here in our clinic. They can, obviously they hunt in the forests and in their habitats, but if there's a snow cover, and especially if it's a younger bird learning to hunt for their first winter, they'll go to the roads to hunt because there's no snow cover there. It's always plowed. And also rodents are attracted to the road because of food and trash along the roadsides. So we always tell people a quick, easy way that you can help wild animals starting today is to keep food and trash in your car. Don't throw it out the window because you'll attract prey to the road and also predators as well.
We've got some friends joining us. Good morning, Ruby.
Hello.
Good morning, Joe from Londonderry, and Adrian from Reading, and Harmony. Hello. Good morning,
friends. So Fern is a barred owl, not a barn owl. Mm-hmm. So people sometimes hear barred owl quickly, and it sounds like barn owl. And there is such a thing as a barn owl, but it's a totally different species. They are more white in coloring, and they have a heart-shaped face, and they're actually farther south. So we don't have barn owl here in New Hampshire, Maine, or north really of Massachusetts. And barred owls get their name from the brown and white barring across their chest, that pattern they have in their feathers there. So this is nesting season, so we thought we'd kind of focus on barred owls making nests this time of year. So their habitat, if you think of places, and it's going to happen really in the next week or so, where you hear a ton of frogs, so listen for your peepers, and that's where you can probably hear some barred owls. They love the same habitat as our peepers and our frogs. They really like an older forest because it has a lot of cavities for them to nest in, and they love being in and around, near water. So that forest that's in a wooded wetland next to a pond, vernal pool, even ephemeral streams, places where you can think of a lot of moss and ferns, that is their preferred habitat. And so you'll want to listen for their call, and we've been doing a lot of these calls on Facebook, and I'll do one right now, see if Fern approves. So their call sounds like ooh, 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 ooh. So people think it sounds like, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? No reaction. Apparently I have to work on my barred owl call. So they do that calling. They will mate for life. And so they split up for the winter. Usually there's not enough prey around for two adults to be hunting in the same spot all winter. So they break up for the winter, kind of fend for themselves, and then they come back to their nesting spot to see if their mates made it for the winter. Do we have
a bunch of people joining us. Hello,
Yay!
everybody. Caitlin, Kate, Xander from Plymouth, Patty, Olivia and Maya, Liam and Luke, We have a donation already. Thank you so much for donating. That's so great. We have a donate button on all of these posts. It's a wonderful way that you guys can help support the center. And then we have a couple of questions so far.
Awesome.
About number one, how are the owls able to be calm and not harm a human? This is from Colleen. Wouldn't they be scared to be on you?
That's a great question. So I'll do rapid fire answering because I can certainly go on for hours with you guys. But we would never, Fern is an educational ambassador. So any of our ambassadors that we work with on the glove are permanently injured animals, and either their temperament or their injury make them not afraid of humans, which is part of why they live with us in sanctuary. So Fern has permanent head trauma, and just like a human, brain damage can impact certain motor skills or functions, and so for her, she's lost her fear of predators, so that's why she's on the glove. Our wild patients that are going to be released back to the wild, we would never have them in an educational setting.
And she was hit by a car, and that's when she got that brain damage.
Great question.
How much does she weigh? That's a question from Caroline.
Yeah, so she weighs a little over a pound. So you would think, right, that she probably weighs like 5 or 7 pounds, but she is very patient. So only now am I touching her body, you guys. So her feathers go all the way down past my second knuckle. So she's got a ton of feathers over a pretty tiny, skinny body that also, she has hollow bones too for flight. Great question.
And then Harmony would like to know if she is able to fly and if she's able to walk.
She can walk and she can fly.
Yep. So her injury is just to her brain, to her neurological capabilities.
Yeah.
Brendan, age 10, hello, wants to know where her ears are located. Ooh. That's a really good a leading question.
Yeah, I love it. So we were talking about this before we got on. Fern is very patient, so I'm going to try to show you guys her ear.
Oh, I know.
So if you guys see the pattern of a circle around her head, this darker line here on either side, that's called a facial disc, and her ear is actually under the feathers. You guys can see.
It's okay.
It is a giant slit.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go. Yep. So huge ears. Huge ears. They take up they take up really about this much of the side of her head. So, and on one side it's positioned a little higher, on the other side it's positioned a little bit lower. Thank you, Fern, for that.
Nice job.
So owls have great hearing, and they can actually turn those feathers, position them so that they can help funnel sound to their ears too, which is really cool. Great question, Brendan.
Natalie and Jillian from Wells are here. Penelope, Julian, Charlie from Cape Elizabeth are here.
Thank you for joining us.
Let's see. Liz, she is a she. And Kristen, if you wanted to talk about how we know that she's a she, that would be great.
Yeah, so to the human eye, male and female barred owls and raptors look very similar. Under a black light, there's emerging studies that show that they actually look very different to each other. But to our human eyes, they do look very similar, almost identical in as far as coloring. They're all kind of this brown and gray pattern, although some of them are very light, some are golden, some are more brown. But males and females are different sizes. So in our raptors, the females are actually larger than the males, which is different from us as humans. The tendency that males are more that are larger than females. So the females are larger. They're the ones carrying the eggs. They're the ones sitting on the nest, and they're defending the babies, while the males are typically the ones going back and forth hunting for the babies and for the females while she's on the nest. And the nest, this is kind of a cool thing to talk about right now because it is nesting season. So, like I said, go where you hear lots of frogs, where there's a lot of tree cavities. Barred owls are kind of lazy nest builders, so they don't, if they find a tree cavity, they really don't change anything. They don't do any redecorating in there. They're just like, oh, cool. Here's a warm, sheltered spot away from predators that they can hide. They'll reuse crow nests, raven's nests, and even like old broad-winged hawk nest, or even some squirrel nests. Actually, they'll take the leaves off the top.
So cool.
And I was reading that the only thing that they do is they'll line the bottom of those stick nests with some lichen and moss, and even softwood like hemlock and spruce tree clippings. So smaller, softer sticks. So to make a plush little moss bed for their babies, which is so sweet.
Hi to Tammy from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. That's been a really cool part of this, is we've been getting viewers from all over the country. It's amazing. Right. Hi from Allie in New Hampshire. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. You just showed me my face for a second. Calvin, Lonnie, hello. They would like to know what she eats.
Great question. So we'll also show you what a barred owl foot would be. And for those of you that are new to the Center for Wildlife, we are a conservation medicine center, which means that we treat about 2,500 injured and orphan wild animals every year in our medical clinic. And we present about 400 environmental education programs each year at schools and libraries. And so unfortunately, some of those patients don't make it. And in those instances, we can actually use their wings and feet and skulls for part of our science curriculum. So this is actually from a great horned owl foot. So it's a bit bigger than our barred owls, but it shows, and you can see on Fern's feet too. She's got some pretty serious talons. So we can tell that's the name for the claws on a barred owl's or raptor's foot is talons, and we can tell from looking at these features and these adaptations that this is not a bird that loves picking blueberries or strawberries. So they eat a lot of rodents, a lot of moles and voles and mice and wood rats. But spring, summer, and fall, their favorite foods are actually amphibians. So they eat a ton of salamanders and frogs, and they help to balance those populations. And something cool that our owls, some of our owls can do, is they can flip their digit around, this digit, so they can have 3 across the front and 1 in the back, or they can have 2 up and 2 down, which is called zygodactyl, which is a fun vocab word for you guys.
Good morning, Carolyn, Molly, and Deacon. Good morning. Liam would like to know how long her wingspan is.
Yeah, so barred owls are, oh, here we go. You're being so
very
patient,
slow.
darling.
Good job.
You guys notice that we move slowly,
yeah,
so that she feels calm. And so this is a barred owl wing. So this shows you one wing. So they really have about a 4-foot wingspan. So this is, on one side, and pretty cool. Our owls are, obviously she has great camouflage for the trees and the bark that we have around, but if you guys see, Katie's zooming in nicely, do you guys see how it looks like a comb or a fringe at the edge of the feathers? That is actually called a fluted edge, and that allows the air to move through an owl's feathers so that they can fly completely silently. And we have right behind us, right next to our little shed, we have a 75-foot flight enclosure, and that's where our patients go when they're in the final stages of rehabilitation. And when we have owls out there that are ready to go, and we go out to bring them food, we can feel the air moving, but you really cannot hear a sound. And that's when we know that everything's working right and they're ready to go.
Hi, from Gus in Portland, Oregon. Hello. Hi, Amanda. It's nice to see you. I got your lovely gift. Thank you so much. Hello to, oh, I did it again. Hello to Liz and Ruby. Annie has a question. She has put up a house for barred owls. Will they use it, and is there a best way to set it up?
Great question. So you want to consider if you have the habitat for these guys, because they have to live in an area where they're going to have the food source available to sustain them. So if you're in a wooded wetland, vernal pool, beaver pond nearby, then that's a great start. And then our barred owls do like to be in nests about 20 to 40 feet up in a tree, so placement is going to be really important. If it's too low, they're going to feel very vulnerable to crows, ravens, even raccoons, so you just want to make sure that your placement is right. If you have a pole or a snag, and you can place that on that, but you got to make sure that you get up high enough, I think.
That's often what people are limited by, is just like the height of their ladders. We have a comment from Meredith. She heard one last night in York, Maine, but she didn't see it and was wondering why they are hooting so much right now.
Yeah, great question. So they split up for the winter, mom and dad, fending for themselves. They come back now, and actually they come back usually in early March. They start their hooting then, and it's like, hey, did you make it through the winter? Do you want to have another nest? Want to have some more babies? So that's what a lot of that calling is about. And then once they're establishing their nest, and barred owls in our region could very well be sitting on eggs just about now. And so a lot of that calling now is likely territorial. So maybe you have young guys that are coming back, or owls that are a little late to the game, but they're just defending their nest. And they're also, the male and the female now will be communicating about food, because the female will be sitting on eggs, about predators too. So they have a lot of different calls, and then they'll all be talking as a family. So there'll be a lot of calling from now really until June about. The
babies sound so odd when they're making their screeching sounds. It's very strange.
They go like this. They're like learning their depth perception.
Thank you to everybody who's donated so far. That's so sweet. We've had quite a few people donate. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
We know that everybody is hurting right now, but we feel like too, we're so glad that people are tuning in and keeping up some donations, because we turn to nature when crisis happens, and we also we know that there are invisible connections to these guys and us, to our own health, our own well-being. I know I feel better just sitting next to Fern. So we receive no state or federal funding, so when you guys choose to give gifts to us, it means
it's wonderful.
Deal. Thank you.
Calvin would like to know if she can turn her head all the way around.
So she can't go all the way around, but if you guys at home keep your shoulders still and turn your head, we can only go about halfway, or 180 degrees. These guys can actually go, we'll see if she'll keep her eye on Katie. She's like, no, I know, Katie.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
There you go. Good job.
So they can actually go 270 degrees, which is not 360. We've got our, esophagus in here, and some nerves in our spinal cord. So if you turned, if we did 360, it would actually kind of choke things off. But they do have a much wider column there so that everything can turn. And they also, if you guys feel those bones in the back of your neck, those are our vertebrae, and we have 7 of those, but our owls have 14. So they have twice as many little bones that can slide on top of each other so they can turn their heads around.
Nice
Very
job, Fern.
good job. And this is a little thing that we like to do to show, so owls are pretty cool and they can do that, but we can do something owls can't, which is we can look up and down and side to side and roll our eyes around in our head, but owls' eyes are actually locked straight forward, so this would be kind of mimicking, I was just going to make a joke, but then I was like, couldn't really think of one, but I'm sure this looks nice and silly. So this kind of mimics what they don't really have really great, ability to roll their eyes around or have peripheral vision. So they have to be able to turn their heads like that. And it's also because owls have, hi honey.
Here, I can.
Not eyeballs like we have. They're actually more like tubes that hold a lot more cells and cones that allow them to see 10 times better in the dark than we can. And they can also pick up heat and into the UV spectrum. So
crazy.
If they're flying in the forest and there's been a mouse that has been running around in the leaf litter and they left a urine trail, an owl's eyes light that up like a black light, and it's like a map to where the mouse is hiding, which is so cool.
Hi, Ella. Ella would like to know if we know how old Fern is.
We don't. We know she was an adult when she came to us, and so she's at least 2 years old. It's tough once you get past, we can tell adult or a first year, really. It's kind of tough to see beyond that. There's certainly DNA tests, but we don't do blood and things like that just to find stuff like that out. We try to poke and prod them as little as possible, but it's kind of cool because you can look at an owl's wings, and they molt every year. So every summer when it's warmer out, and they don't molt in the winter, because in the winter they're using a lot of energy just to stay alive and stay warm. But in the summertime they don't have to generate as much energy and heat, so they can replace all their feathers, but they don't do it exactly uniform. So we can tell by the wear on feathers whether it's a first year bird that has all even feathers, or if it's an adult that is taking its time replacing things. Great question.
We have a question from Joan that's asking if owls were around in the time of the dinosaurs.
That's a great question. I don't believe so.
So yeah, all of our birds have evolved from a dinosaur, from a flighted dinosaur, but it took millions and millions of years to get to that, from a flighted dinosaur to these guys. So yeah. No.
Good question though.
Yeah. It looks like we're all caught up on questions.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll just finish up with nesting season info, and then we'll let you guys get back to your Thursdays. So like we said, they're laying eggs right now. They're in their cavities, or they're in their nests that they took from someone else that had built it. And they can have 1 to 5 eggs, and they usually have 2 to 3 babies that successfully hatch from that. And then the eggs take about a month. The mom is incubating them for about a month. And then the babies are in the nest for about a month and a half. They're born completely helpless. They actually can't really see for the first 14 days. And they're learning calls. They're hearing their parents talk back and forth. Our barred owls actually have a lot of different vocalizations. So you maybe even heard this one too. It's just a woo. And then they have that "Who Cooks for You," but they also do ooh, 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 ah, ah, ooh, ooh. It's called caterwauling, so it sounds kind of like a monkey. So the babies will be branchlings, so that means that they're kind of getting their regular feathers in instead of their downy fuzz. Their feathers are really short and stubby, but they're like trying to be big owls. And they are practicing their balance, they're flapping their wings, they're building up muscles. And then they'll take their first flight from the nest, which is really just kind of jumping out. They can't really fly that great. And they'll continue to build up their strength. Parents will feed them, supplementally feed them as they're learning to hunt. They'll miss 9 times out of 10 when they're hunting. But then once they're fully fledged, it's usually around late summer that they would leave their parents. And then they're on their own for the first fall and winter, which is really challenging. There's an 85% mortality rate for our raptors in that first winter because of how difficult it is. So things you can do to keep these guys safe is, like we said, keep food and trash out of the roads. Also, please do not use rodenticide. A barred owl family can be eating at least 20 rodents in an evening. So if you take out the owl, think of how many rodents you're actually adding to your habitat. So, I think that's it. Fern lives in an outdoor enclosure. We're just inside right now because it's rainy. And, we're so grateful that you guys tune in.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. Take care.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.